Welcome to the Selling in the Motor Trade podcast, in association with Simco Training. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bogert. Now, some of you probably already know me as Skippy. I would start by saying thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. I have a question for you. Do you have an appetite for an open sales training program? You see, we normally run our sales training programs for dealer groups or manufacturers so we can get enough people in a room to make the training cost effective. But every year I get lots of people saying, oh, I've got one dealership, or I've got just two dealerships. I've got 3 salespeople that could really go through your training program. And we're often saying, well, I don't know how well it's going to stack up for you. Now, you have options. You could also go to Amazon and get the book Words That Sell Cars. It's a great book, and we have lots of clients give that to every salesperson when they start in the industry. Of course, you could always go to our signature sales fitness training program. Now, if you listen to our podcast, we plug that all the time. It's cost effective because it's only £299 for 3 months of digital online training that gives your salesperson a great start in their career. You could do that. But I want to see is an appetite for an open physical training course. Now, guys, we have to run that course interactively. Okay, it's not one of these courses where your salespeople sit there, crossing arms, just listening to it bored throughout the day. It won't be death by PowerPoint. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, go to our website. It's simcotraining.co.uk. Look for the tab about open courses, and you get all the details you need right there. Listen, I need to ask a question about a robust sales process then.
Yeah.
Is it still as important today as it always has been?
I'm sorry to jump straight into you there because I feel passionate about this one. Look, why do you need a process? You need it for a number of reasons. We're in a regulated world, so you've got to have a framework within which you operate, and you've got to have consistency. Whether you're selling a Mazda, a Maserati, or a McLaren, the majority of the process is the same. If you put it through the customer's lens, it's like, listen, believe, buy. If they like you, if you're listening to each other, if there's belief built up, then people buy. And in a world of price transparency, then that's not a bad principle to work by. And also, and I'll go back to my previous experiences. If you want to digitize a business, the first thing you have to do is codify. To codify, you have to have written processes. You can't just go to a developer and say, hey, make up an amazing thing for me in the digital world, because they don't know what it is, because it's all written in ones and zeros.
Yeah. So
you've got to have the playbook, if we call it that.
Yeah.
The other thing, sorry, you've got me on a hobby horse now.
Okay,
Skip, so
that's good.
Let me have my moment. For many years, I used to coach youngsters to play rugby. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was known as Cone Man. That was my job.
Cone Man. Okay.
Cone.
Yeah.
Cone.
Okay.
Because my job was I got the cones out. So you'd have like 13, 14-year-old lads running around on a Friday night with a big bag of rugby balls. And they knew that the balls didn't come out the bag until the cones were marked out. And it might be a 10 by 10 grid. Might be a half pitch. Might be a full pitch. But like I used to say to them, let's get the cones out. That's the field of play. You can kick that ball as hard as you like. You can play off left hand, right hand. You can be a forward, a back, whatever you want. But it stays within the perimeters of those cones. And if it was all going horribly wrong, you pull the cones in, you make it a smaller grid. If it's all going well and they're in flow, you make it a full-size pitch. Okay. But what happened is they knew that the whistle got blown if the ball went out of play. And I think that's a principle for us in our business is, look, I'm not there to meet and greet every customer. I'm not there to do any of the qualification. I don't present products. I don't do the IDDs. I don't do that on a customer basis. But what I do is create the field of play that we're going to play within. We set out the kind of limitations of where the ball must stay. And ultimately, we teach our teams how to play off left and right hand, how to kick off both feet, how to tackle safely. That's my job. and then we let them play. But you need a process for that. So, come back to your question, is there a place for robust sales processes? Absolutely. Are the days of Pendle? And that's what people have in their head when you talk about process.
That's exactly what I was thinking. No, I don't want to give them word scripts. Yeah,
I've never done Pendle. Never. I've never been on a Pendle course. I've never been involved in a business that ran a Pendle system and so on. What I'm talking about is freedoms within a framework.
Yes. Yeah.
But you need the framework. You need the cones to know where the corner of the pitch is, to know whether you're in or out of play.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like whenever people are looking at this, last week in the Formula One, it was a great situation because they were talking about track limits, and there's a huge debate about like half the drivers went off the track, and I've seen so many 10-second penalties and 5-second penalties, but actually that is the track. Stay within the track. And I always like someone like Martin Brundle will say, well, they can do it in Monaco. Why can't they do it? Okay.
Well, in Monaco, and I was very lucky to be there this year, you've got a water on one side and a wall on the other. So you have some very hard lines you have to stay within. And if you hit them, then the game's over.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But this is the thing. It's funny. I'm just looking at my stack of books here in my home office, and that's one of my latest favourites.
Drive to Survive.
Going to shine up. What a hero! Because most of I won't repeat.
All the way. Most of the time. His first phrase in the book, he says, "I'm going to start with a swear word," and people are knowing me. He spells it differently, though, doesn't he, Jason?
He does.
F-O-K,
he does.
I think it is. Yes,
he does. And I must admit, I walk around sometimes thinking, I need the same T-shirt as Gunter Steiner. But what this guy's showing is resilience, detail focus, a willingness to push, an acceptance that things just aren't easy, and bounce back ability, if that's indeed a word. That's what he does. But I love him. I was very lucky a few years ago when I was at Jardine. We had Toto Wolff come and talk at the conference. Incredible guy.
Yeah. And what he's done in the world of Formula One, sensational.
If you're not a reader and you're a listener, as yours are, go on to High Performance Podcast. Sorry to plug another podcast.
No, with Jake. Great.
With Jake Humphrey, and go to, I think it's episode 56. It's that. I'm sure that's the one. Which is Toto Wolff's episode, and I urge everybody to go and listen to it. But what Toto does, he has the real detail focus. He's a guy that's transferred skills from other industries to automotive, but he really taps into kind of the sense of well-being and mindfulness and so on. Very fortunately, Neil Williamson organised for all of the leadership team at Jardine, spend time with Toto's mindfulness coach.
Brilliant.
Go and do group meditation and so on. It sounds a bit wacky, but there's something in it, because what he focuses on is getting things into flow. I think that's what we're trying to do as a business. That's what we're trying to do as leaders. That's what we should try to do as an industry. Just get into flow. Let's not fight. Let's be kind. Let's be compassionate. Let's take people with us. And if we can get into flow, then actually we stand a great chance of achieving our ambitions.
Yeah, that's great. I have listened to that podcast with Toto Wolff, but you've met the man, and he's I'm just amazed me what he's achieved in a relatively short time in Formula One, to owner of Mercedes, or part owner, I should say there. Absolutely incredible. And listen, the robust sales process then, I love what you're saying. There has to be a process. There has to be a framework, but you can do what you want within the framework. You're not talking about scripting. You're not talking about that. I know that we completed some sim checks for your business recently where we come in, sounds like a mystery shop. It's not, it's where we actually just sell us car from start to finish. What happens in the airline industry, every 6 months, a pilot has to go into a simulator to prove they know how to fly a plane. And I tell you, it always opens up your manager's mind so much that, hold on, I didn't realize that my salesperson was or was not doing that. Didn't realize it. It's just such a great way to inspect what you expect the people to do.
Exactly. And Skip, I'm very grateful for you doing those for us. I think having that sort of third person perspective is really useful as well. And again, the spirit of it's not there to catch anybody out. It's to reinforce the great behaviors, but also for us to be able to check ourselves in. And, in the world we live in today, which is, authorized and regulated and monitored, then we have to demonstrate that we have oversight. So those sim checks are fantastic. And, I was really grateful to spend time with you only yesterday going through, the first round of what we've done in Norton Way. I know we do them already in the RRG business. And, it's a great, as the approved person for our business, it was of great comfort to understand, that we've got a third person perspective on our processes. And of course, it dovetails into the work that, again, a bit of a plug for you, but the work that we're doing with Simco in terms of, our sales skills and our customer handling skills. This year alone, across 450 colleagues, as total colleagues within Norton Way, we've got a couple hundred of those are customer facing, and we've done, I don't know, I'm sure you'll send me the bill for it soon if you haven't done already, but I think we've done about 5,000 hours, Now, on the principle that 10,000 hours gets you to expert, I mean, by the end of this year, we collectively will be, but those sim checks are fantastic, and I recommend them to anybody who's looking to just test the temperature, double check that things are working as hoped, and to identify, what can you do next in the spirit of continual improvement.
I love you and Maya and Steve, your approach there. This is not a stick. It's not a mystery shop. These are actually, how does a salesperson listen to themselves, to coach themselves, and we stop it. So they do work well. Now, can we talk about put a different hat on now, Norton Way role hat, because you've got Marubeni and Norton role. You wear two hats there.
Yeah.
We've had a long conversation about culture in the business. Mindset, attitude. That's what you're all about, the books that you read and the books that we've both read and love. Okay. How much time are you spending on getting the culture right in the business? How much of your time is dedicated to getting that?
That's a good question. So I'm very firmly, in the Norton Way business, every day, and have been since turn of the year. My answer to that is I think about it all the time. Now, whether that's always translated and felt, let's debate sort of separately. But the big driver for me is culture. If I can translate a vision that people can understand, if we have a strength in values that we operate by, if we have that growth mindset individually and collectively, and if my focus is on the resilience that we build within our business, then the profit will follow. And we're seeing good evidence of that now anyway. But the cultural side is so important because, at the end of the day, when you've got a business, if I take it up to, Marubeni or to investment level, and there's myself and Aaron, who you know very well, and Jonathan in HPL, it's the three of us plus our leadership from Japan who are running the business. And we can't be in every one of our 40 locations every day. When you're turning over 750, 800 million, you can't count every pound as it comes across the counter. So you have to get the culture right. But you referred to it right at the beginning, some cultural norms. It starts with having a definition, and the RRG business is a great example of you do not put your coat on the back of the chair. And thank you to Michael and Mr. Smythe for instilling that as a culture, because it lives on today.
It does.
You'll have noticed as you came into my office yesterday, in Norton Way, you won't have seen my jacket either. Yeah, because it's just normal through. But I think the cultural side, culture trumps strategy every time. That's not my phrase. Many bigger brands than mine have come up with that, but I firmly believe it. Yeah, so true. So true. Well, listen, with your Marubeni hat on now, can you tell us a bit about Marubeni? Because listen, I've spoken to Aaron for many years. We've been working with Aaron for 20 years or something like that there. But Marubeni, a lot of people may not know of Aaron, because I didn't know about Marubeni until they bought RRG Group. Can you tell us a bit about them? They're bigger than maybe what a lot of people might think. Yeah, I mean, Marubeni is one of the world's biggest companies. To put it into context, and I'm very fortunate to be in Tokyo, which is where the headquarters are. It's a Japanese trading house, 150 plus years old. It's got nearly 500 subsidiary companies, and is in Japan more of a household name, alongside a Mitsubishi Corporation or a Sumitomo, which are other Japanese trading houses. They're described as what's called a Sogo Sosha in the Japanese.
Say that again, Sogo
Sosha. So
okay.
Sogo Sosha is the Japanese term for a trading house.
Okay.
Lots of different sectors, mining, shipping, renewable energy, automotive, financial services, you name it. And to put it into context, if you had 3 cups of coffee in Japan, one of them would have come from Marubeni. So that's the scale of it. That's huge. Here in the UK, the brand wasn't necessarily well known unless you're in the world that I was for some time of franchising. So, I was very much aware of them in my time with Volkswagen Group. Marubeni purchased RRG in 2000, purchased Norton Way in 2008, and we're very supportive. Very, very encouraging of the businesses operating well, but ultimately didn't necessarily come in and do a branding exercise, and neither should they need to. But yeah, Marubeni is a huge organisation. For me, it gives us great comfort that we've got this very long-standing, very, very successful global shareholder who are really interested. I mean, that's one of the only way I can describe it is I spent a lot of time talking to my boss, who's Masayama-san, who's Japanese, who is based in the Manchester area, colleagues in London in the Marubeni Europe head office, and spent a lot of time talking to headquarters colleagues in Tokyo as well. So I like the Japanese business. The creed, if you call it that, is Sei Shin Wa. Innovation, fairness, and harmony is how that translates, and that translates back into our culture. We want to be innovative. Definitely fair, and that's what I want to be seen as. And the big thing is harmony. And that's what Aaron and I and Jonathan are creating within our group of companies now, is harmonies. It's not about consolidation. We don't have to be consolidating everything we do. But we have to act with scale. It's like we're a pretty big business. We sell about 50,000 new and used cars and motorcycles in a year. Turnover, $750 million. We're kind of AM top 20 something, if you were to glue the businesses together. But what we are able to do now is get the benefits of scale, but without having to have just one consolidated entity. And the balance between how I do things, how Aaron does things, how Jonathan does things, with the backup and support of our Japanese shareholder and colleagues, I think gives us a relatively unique position in the industry.
Yeah, it's Paul Bradley again on this podcast, and one of our clients said, Marubeni is strange. From the outside, it looks like they acquire a business and then just let them get on and run it. Like RRG, they did this. Norton Way, they just acquire the business in 2008, I believe it was, and let them just get on and run it. Are you going to bring it together as one group? Are they still going to be individual entities? Is it just what's the vision, the plan for the three? Because you've just acquired HPL recently within 6 months, I think it is, something like that.
Yeah, so 6 months ago, we completed the deal on HPL. Look, Skip, the easiest way to describe it, it's a harmonious environment. We're a portfolio business that sits under one common umbrella, which is Marubeni Auto Investment UK. I was brought in as COO of that business in 2021 to drive the growth and synergies across the group, which you've already identified we're achieving. I think Marubeni has an awareness within the industry now that maybe wasn't so aware before. And we're certainly catching the interest of a lot of people, which is great. But similarly, I'm the MD of Norton Way. Aaron's the MD of RRG. Jonathan's the MD of HPL. And the three of us get on great. We're different characters in part, but we're very similar in others. And I think we've got something special going on here.
Okay. The future Marubeni, are you looking to acquire further businesses?
Yeah. We're on a growth path. I think our our intention was clear with the acquisition of majority shareholding in HPL. I think it was clear that we wanted to create a very vertically integrated business, which we're doing. We've got a shareholder who's ambitious. I mean, you've got to remember, outside of the UK.
But people who don't know, HPL is not a franchise dealership.
No, three used car supermarkets, incredibly successful. Jonathan established the business 30 years ago. We've got it's knocking on the doors of 6 acres up in Preston. We've got in Oldham, we've got the what was originally a Renault dealership and the Volkswagen dealership, which now conjoined into a used car supermarket, and also in Atherton, a smaller one. Jonathan's done an amazing job. He and his family of building that up, and delighted that he came into our family, at Christmas time, and remains as a shareholder, but also is now part of our executive committee. So great business there. But no, we want to grow outside of the UK. If anybody wants to go and do a bit of research, go and have a look around, and suddenly you'll find just how big Marubeni is overseas. And that's something that is important to us, because in automotive today in the UK, it's a hugely consolidated. The emergence of super groups has happened already. It's not happening. It's happened. It's live. And you've got to have, as proven by others, a very strong, very, very well integrated stack of businesses, a platform or an ecosystem. Like this is what you're trying to create.
So with your Marubeni hat still on then, what do you look for a business? When you're looking to acquire a business, you're looking at something like HPL, and again, there'll be other people that I'm sure you can't tell us, but what are you looking for when you look at a business to see if it is a fit for Marubeni?
Well, it's got to add value. So it has to be a valuable business. It's got to be of scale, because there's no point. It takes as much work to do something small scale as it does on a larger scale when it comes to to the deals. It's got to fit well within our portfolio. We do want to create an ecosystem of businesses. I think cultural fit is really important, because when you going off and looking at the businesses, the likelihood is you're going to want to lock in the know-how. So you've got to be able to bring people into your environment that then get what you're about. We're not about, we don't have a massive team that's going to go in and SWAT team in as some of our peer group would be able to do. What we're looking for is something that can provide the upsides, the harmony, as we said before, and actually give us the strength as an overall business. So we'll look at things that maybe other people won't look at. We're interested in a diverse portfolio. But I guess the other bit, and come back to your earlier point, we're doing stuff. And to your earlier point, even if we hadn't done so much stuff for a number of years, for a number of reasons, we're doing stuff now. And there was a pivot point, a couple of years ago, where we said, right, we're now on. And that's why I joined Marubeni.
No, I think it was interesting, HPL. It makes sense when you explain exactly what you're trying to do with the businesses, where I suppose Robert Forrester, it wouldn't be something he would look at. It just wouldn't be on their radar at all there.
And we're already seeing the synergies. We're recycling our second life, third life part exchanges go back up into HPL. We're able to harmonize our systems and processes. We're able to learn a hell of a lot from what they do. And we've got Carverse, which is our supermarket in the Norton Way business, which there's a lot of idea sharing between the two now, which is fantastic. It puts us on a different seat. I think one of the big things I wanted to bring to Marubeni was a chair at the top tables. So if you look at, for example, the value of Norton Way, RRG, and HPL combined when it comes to buying, for example, classified advertising. So suddenly I've got an invite to sit at the top table now, rather than be on the kids' table, at Christmas, because you glue the thing together, whether it's just behaviorally, even if it isn't through a unified, a consolidated business, and suddenly we're of scale. And as I said to you before, if you look at, look at the AM, top whatever, and our combined businesses are up at the right end of the scale rather than down at the small end of the scale.
We interviewed John O'Hanlon. I understand you know John very well.
John very well.
And he said that, the economics at scale still works. And I believe he's working very hard at the moment to increase that scale in all areas there. Dash has said there's going to be 5 or 6 super groups. I suppose going to be, as you said, it's happened.
To all intents and purposes, it's already happened, or it's fairly clear as to what's going to happen there. But 5 or 6 super groups, bearing in mind that what's there going to be? If we're talking franchise dealers, which is a smaller number anyway. Franchise dealers, it was 5,000. I think most people would agree there's probably going to be, 4,000 maybe is the number.
Yep.
Well, if you've got 5 or 6 super groups, that's a hell of a lot of opportunity still left for anybody that's not in a super group. But you're going to have to be a decent group, if you're going to be anything. And that's utmost admiration for what John does. John and I know each other very, very well, and got someone there who's done a fantastic job of creating, his business, but he's brought with it the disciplines from his previous lives. And complete admiration for what John's doing.
We talk about processes, and I interviewed John on the last day of March. Or was it first or last day of March? Doesn't matter. It's one of them. I think it was the last day of March. I said, John, is this date really going to work for you? And he said, Simon, if I haven't got my processes right now, if I'm busy today, I've got something wrong. And he's so right, isn't he? Absolutely so right. So
John's got there before others, it would be my view. And if there's someone that I would benchmark as an excellent operator, it would be John. And he knows that from me personally. And I think he's got a lot to. There's a lot of people can learn from what John does.
Lots of great advice on the podcast as well. Again, people go back and listen to John O'Hanlon. It was a great advice on there. So on talking about advice then, we have lots of investors listening to this podcast. Okay, what advice do you have for the investor who's acquired a business and trying to integrate it into their current business? That's a tough gig. You've been through it, I suppose, with HPL in a slightly different way. What advice would you give for someone trying to integrate a new business?
I think you've got to have a plan. You've got to have an intent to integrate. I think is the start point. Do the first things first. So there's a lot of stuff that would need to be done, but kind of prioritize the things that are most important. I think the cultural piece is incredibly important. That's our learning, from what's happened within Marubeni, in the UK, but also overseas, is make sure that people understand the culture and the ethos of the parent. There's some things you really do have to prioritize nowadays, whether it's systems and information security, or whether it's regulatory frameworks and so on. That's 1, 2, 3 on the list, isn't it? But you also have to accept it's going to take some time, and you're going to have to iterate. So quite often when you go and acquire a business, the chances of it being an absolute plug and play is unlikely. So you've got to have alignment between the leadership. You've got to make sure that you invest heavily in taking people on the journey with you. This is if you're trying to integrate businesses into a portfolio. For sure, if all you're going to do is going to do a walk in and a takeover, then you do what you want to do. And people do that, but I guess I can only talk from my experiences of trying to create something that retains all of the upsides, all of the strength of the business, which is why you bought them.
Yes, exactly. That is why you bought them. Yeah.
And harmonize that with things you do already, with the intent of everybody winning. And that's only from my personal view. It's not easy, and takes a lot of investment of time and effort. A lot of belief, but I think it also starts, and certainly for me, when I talk to any prospective company that we'd be interested in, I perhaps spend a lot of time talking about what it's like on the other side first. Because say my intent is to find opportunities where we lock in the know-how, that we continue to grow what was already it's the good to great. The good to great.
The good business, how can we take it great? What can we add to it? And I love the win-win. I mean, HPL, again, still a shareholder within the business. That's that model that you lock in that talent that's there. That's why you're buying them.
Exactly.
Which is great. Listen, I have to ask you this question. I know we've been talking here for a while now. I've just looked at the time there, but I'm loving this. But I've got someone here that's had the OEM side of the business and the dealer side of the business. So I want to get your views on agency.
Yep.
Dale Wyatt posted this morning on LinkedIn that UK bosses Stellantis and SEAT Cupra are both departing. So Paul Wilcox and Richard Harrison are leaving. He didn't say this specifically, but he kind of implied that both those OEMs are going down the sales agency route. Anyone who knows Dale will know that Dale is very anti-agency. But I want to get your views because you have sat on both sides of the fence. Sales agency, is it good? Is it bad? What are the advantages, disadvantages? Is it happening anyway? Or do you think it'll be a huge U-turn?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You mentioned two names there, both of which were my bosses in previous life. Look, agency is going to happen, isn't it? You know,
yeah, of course it is.
I think what we've got to look forward to is true agency, not this quasi agency that seems to be emerging, where you know,
Yep.
you know, it moves to a handling fee, but the balance sheet impact is still the dealer. You know, I think get to a point where it's true agency, where you know, the liquidity and the balance sheet impact is upside for the dealer and downside for the OEM. You know, that's or shifted to the OEM. That's probably not a bad place. It's going to happen anyway. I can't control it. You know, in my vision, and you know, many of you have seen it. I've got a little mouse map here on my home desk, my little smart city. You know, I see agency up here as a headwind, as a tailwind. Sorry, as a headwind, and the speed we turn it to a tailwind. Should we get behind it? You know, we do a hell of a lot of fleet as Norway. You know, so we're already dealing with agency in a number of brands there.
Yep.
And it's the only way that you can process thousands and thousands of cars into the fleet arena. You know, effectively. So look, you know, and
from an OEM, you were talking about agency back in 2000 and
yeah. I mean, you know, I left Volkswagen Group in 2015, and it was already a a very firm agenda point back then. So look, it's going to happen. I think I've said this previously. In an omni-channel world, yeah, agency is one of the mechanisms that supports omni-channel retailing. I think what we've got to do as dealers is go, look, it's a change. We're great at changing and adapting, but think of all the other things that we do have full control of. You know, our used car business today, our service departments, our ability to generate revenues from other areas, and what we've got to do is be adaptive. That much used word of agile, I think, is very relevant to us. And ultimately, you know, what we've got to do and want is what the OEMs need to do and want, which is to be a collaborator. Because, you know, the OEMs made it very clear they want, you know, larger scale relationships with meaningful partners that delivers a win-win outcome. You know, so agency will be a function of that. That's my view. That's my personal view. I'm sure it's a view that's shared by some others, and I'm sure it's a view that's opposed by many others, but that's my view.
Yeah, it's interesting. Should investors be concerned about the model? I understand Deloitte wrote a report that it's going to reduce the retailer's profit by 50%. I wonder how that affects the value of the business. I know lots of people on the podcast are, I'm going to use the word paranoid about the value of their business with it. But I suppose the point you said, it's coming anyway. We've got to get used to it.
You made me smile when you said about, you know, a consultancy writing a paper, and we work with a lot of consultancies on sort of, you know, far horizon projects. But let me use a term that many will resonate with many of you. You know, Glass's Guide write about vehicle values, but they don't buy vehicles.
So true. Yeah.
So you know, as dealers, we've got to go and build a business that is future fit. You know, you've got to have a business strategy for a digital world. That doesn't mean everything is online. And you know, agency, well, if it comes and when it comes, then modify your approach to fit that model. That's what the entrepreneurs and the dealers will do to win.
So Jason, I've always come from the dealer world. Okay, I started washing cars and a general sales manager. I've never been a dealer principal. It was a general sales manager.
I only wash cars, Skip. Mine's filthy.
That's where I started my life as a 17-year-old kid. So I've not seen the OEM side of it. And one bit, because I've got you here, I don't understand. There's always has to be an element of push from an OEM, because surely you have to plan the production run, 12 months in advance, 18 months, whatever it is. You're always going to have to guess what's going to happen. So there's going to have to be an element of push there. How is that going to work in the sales agency model? I mean, look at Tesla. Tesla, they dropped the value of their cars, 19%? Okay. What did it do to the price of all electric vehicles in the UK? I want to get your views on
Tesla.
Yeah. I want to get your views on that, if I can. How does the OEM deal with that push element? Do they just do what Elon Musk did? Was Elon Musk smart to do it? I don't know.
It's interesting. We could talk a long time about Elon Musk, and for sure he took a risk. He took a risk. Yeah. The question is whether it was a gamble or whether it was a risk based on an assessment of materiality. Let's be fair. What he did. He pulled the lever first. He turned the wheel earlier into the apex, and actually, he came out, with a result for his business, which meant that he might have lost some short term, but suddenly he got a massive upside, perhaps in terms of production, fulfillment, or was able to switch margin from one channel to another. From my experience of OEM, the big topic in any OEM is market steering, and it is literally that. The OEM has the hands on the wheel or the hands on the levers to decide, okay, we're going to switch it out of new into used. We're going to switch it from that model where we've got great margin into that model where we haven't got great margin. Hang on a minute, we've got an oversupply in China. If we pull that lever, why don't we push that into Europe? And that's what the OEM has. And I guess also in a world where you've got captive finance and so on, we're going to switch it out of the vehicle into the finance. So we're going to use tomorrow's residual value to support today's volume. That's what the OEM has to hand in a way that perhaps the dealer doesn't. But that's looking at it through an OEM lens. But I think what you do have to do is have belief that the OEM does have that long-term vision, and that ultimately the OEM wants that lifetime value of customer locking in, for which there's a slice of the salami for the dealer. And that's the general principle. But I don't know. You've opened Pandora's box there, Skip.
Certainly have that. Well, Elon Musk, was it a gamble? Did it pay off? He is a gambler. I think he is a gambler. Definitely interesting fans. And people love him or hate him, I suppose. It's Marmite, that's it. Marmite, Vegemite, we Aussies would say. So listen, in wrapping up then, what's one thing you think someone listening to this needs to be focusing on over the next couple of years in our industry? Or what are you going to be focusing on over the next couple of years?
I'm going to be focusing on, having our business, very much become an ecosystem. We're going to focus on, unlocking the benefits of being a platform, whether that's a digital platform or a network of businesses. We're going to double down in terms of our mantra of Say Xinhua, innovation, fairness, and harmony. That's what we're going to really focus on. What we're going to do is we're going to create, and certainly if I look at it through a Norton Way lens, we're going to create a very, very, very kind, very resilient, very prosperous business. So that's what I'm focused on, this year, next year, hopefully that will put us in a good position to capitalize on the opportunities the market will give us.
Station, I'm going to have to practice that. Am I pronouncing that right? Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Perfect. Listen, thank you so much for this. Any tip or idea that someone listening to this now, that's the future, then can go and put in place today. Let's say you've got a sales manager, service advisor, service manager, listen to this. What's one tip you want to leave people with?
Gosh.
Put you on the spot now, haven't I?
Yeah. Just have an inquiring mind. Yeah. Just think, just open your mind. That's all I can say, because that'll help you deal with the changes. It will help you be receptive. You'll have your senses wired. Just open your mind and flow.
Brilliant. Listen, I really do appreciate it. Jason, how do people get hold of you? What's the easiest way for them to get hold of you?
LinkedIn. Just jump on LinkedIn. I'm on there.
Perfect. Jason, thank you so much for this. I really do appreciate it.
Yes, Skip. Good to speak.
See you then.
Take care, mate. Thanks. Bye.
That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, simcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bokert through LinkedIn.